It was the first Monday of May, when everything flipped upside down. I remember because I had just finished brushing the last bit of dust off a windowsill in my apartment, dropped the rag onto the counter, and finally allowed myself a long breath. I'm Brandon, I'm 26, and for the first time ever, I had something that belonged entirely to me, not a room squeezed between 3 roommates, not a borrowed couch at a cousin's house while scraping by. A place with my name on the lease, my sweat in the paint, my late-night YouTube-taught repairs hiding behind the smooth white walls. ND. I wasn't aiming for anything luxury level, I just wanted clean, quiet, mine. I'd spent 4 straight months grinding, double shifts, weekend work, skipped meals, barely replying to texts, just to finally close on this 1-bedroom unit a little outside the city. Yeah, it was small. Yeah, it was old. Yeah, it needed more TLC than a sick plant. But it was peaceful. It was mine. I know I keep repeating that, but you don't forget the first moment you turn your own key, push open your own door, and know the only footsteps inside are yours. Let me rewind. You need to understand the family dynamic or the rest won't just sound shocking, it'll feel inevitable. I grew up in a house where the person talking the loudest automatically won. My dad bailed when I was in middle school and barely checked in again. So was me, my older sister Emily, and a mom who somehow decided Emily was a fragile princess, who needed the entire world to bend around her. Not literally scrubbing floors like Cinderella, more like receiving endless excuses. Bad grades? She's sensitive. Tantrum? She's overwhelmed. Breakup? She's fragile. Every year, same script. Emily's 5 years older than me, and she carried herself like someone who had never heard the word no in her entire life. When I was younger, I actually thought she was cool. Smelled like warm vanilla, wore bold makeup, blasted music like she lived inside a movie scene. But once I hit high school, something snapped. She started treating me like her personal errand boy. Bran, get me a soda. Bran, do the dishes or I'll tell Mom you scratched her car. Bran, don't be weird. Whenever I tried complaining, Mom's answer was always, just let her be, she's going through a lot. I never knew what a lot meant since Emily quit college after half a semester, bounced between temp jobs, then married a guy named Rick who wore indoor sunglasses and acted like being rude made him a comedian. Meanwhile, I kept my head down. I worked. I took community college classes at night. I went from unloading trucks to team lead at a logistics warehouse. Nothing was handed to me. Every inch forward was a climb. Every no I heard became fuel to prove I could do it anyway. That drive? Emily hated it, especially when she found out I bought a place. I didn't brag. I didn't post it. I just mentioned it during dinner at Mom's. Mom was warming food in the microwave, Emily scrolling like she was allergic to eye contact. I said, I'm closing on my apartment Friday. For a second, nothing happened. Then, without looking up, Emily said, didn't think you made enough to afford anything. I didn't react. I just smiled. Mom tried to be supportive. That's wonderful, honey. But even she looked nervous, like she was waiting for Emily to explode. Emily let out this snort-laugh combo and said, hope you enjoy noisy neighbors and busted plumbing. Starter places suck. That was her specialty, turning anyone else's good news into an insult. And when her marriage fell apart, when the arguments with Rick stopped because Rick himself disappeared, Emily got meaner. She moved back in with Mom for a few weeks, which everyone knew meant forever. She took over the living room like it was her kingdom, spread her stuff across every surface, and made little passive-aggressive comments about how some people don't understand real struggle. I stayed out of it. I had a home to build. Weekends were spent sanding floors, repainting cabinets, swapping out old lights that flickered like failed horror effects. I even learned to tile the bathroom myself. By the end of April, the place looked exactly how I wanted. Maybe not fancy, but exactly right. And then came that Monday. It was unusually hot for early May. I'd just finished a long shift, sweat sticking my shirt to my back, and all I wanted was a cold shower and a quiet evening on the balcony with iced tea. I walked up to my door, slid my key in, and it didn't budge. I paused, tried again, checked the key, tried again, nothing. My heart started doing this weird jumpy rhythm. Maybe the lock jammed, maybe it needed lubrication. I jiggled the key, leaned against the door, listening. That's when I heard it, a voice. A woman's voice, familiar, laughing. I knocked. The laughing stopped. A moment later the door inched open, just a crack. Emily stood there wearing one of my shirts, a bowl of cereal in hand, looking like she had just rolled out of bed. Yes? She asked, like I was trespassing. I stared. What are you doing here? Why isn't my key working? Oh, she said, almost bored. Mom changed the locks. We moved in last week. We? I croaked. Me and Jamie, she said, gesturing toward the bedroom. You know my son? The one you barely visit? He needs stability. You're young. You'll figure things out. Don't be dramatic. Her words didn't even process because my eyes were scanning the room. My rug, my table, my shelves, my books, all still there, just buried under her mess. Toys everywhere, dishes piled in the sink, clothes draped across the couch like a collapsing fort. I swear I forgot how to breathe. I didn't push the door. I didn't yell. I didn't even step inside. I turned around, walked down the stairs, climbed into my car, and sat there gripping the steering wheel like it might disappear too. My chest felt like it had caved in. Everything I'd worked for, gone, just like that. After about 10 minutes of staring at nothing, I grabbed my phone and called my mom. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey sweetie, why is Emily in my apartment?" I asked. My mom didn't sound surprised or nervous, just annoyed. "Brandon, please don't start. Emily's having a really hard time right now." "You gave her my apartment? You're young. You'll bounce back. This is only until she stabilizes. Jamie needs a safe environment, and you—" She sighed. "You're hardly home as it is." Something inside me cracked, not loudly, not with fury, more like a quiet internal splintering. "Okay," I said, and hung up. Then I drove straight to the police station. Not to yell or throw accusations, but with the lease clenched in my hand like a lifeline. And that was the moment the real battle started. Walking inside felt surreal, like I was still half asleep. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe some officer to clap me on the back and say, "Let's go get your place back." Instead, I got forms, procedures, slow voices. I sat on a plastic chair in the waiting area, lease in one hand, ID in the other, breathing through panic, while my thoughts spun so loud I could barely hear anything else. The officer at the desk, Marks I think, asked me to explain, so I did, carefully, calmly. I told him I had legally signed that lease months ago, that I paid every fee myself, that I had receipts, keys, furniture, my life, inside. And then one day, suddenly, I was shut out of my own home by someone who had never contributed a single dollar and had absolutely zero legal rights to be there. He skimmed the lease, took my landlord's number, and gave me this tired, sympathetic half-frown. "Well," he said slowly, "it's not quite a criminal case yet. If she forced her way in or changed the locks without permission, we might be looking at trespassing. But if you gave her a key—" "I didn't," I cut in immediately. "I gave a spare key to my mom. Only her." His eyebrows lifted. "That's different. Your mother giving someone unauthorized access. That could count as unlawful entry. But these family situations," he said, rubbing the bridge of his nose, "get complicated fast. Start with a formal report. Contact your landlord. If she refuses to leave, he'll have to file for eviction." I wanted to laugh or slam something or put my head through a wall, but all I did was ask for the paperwork. I filled everything out with a hand that barely felt attached to me. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. I didn't check it. Later I saw it was a message from Mom. "Please don't escalate this. Emily needs it more than you." That sentence echoed in my skull the rest of the night. I ended up sleeping at a friend's place. Darren, a guy from work who didn't ask questions. He tossed me a beer, gave me a pillow. I drank the beer, didn't sleep, and stared at his ceiling like it held the answers to anything. The next morning, I phoned my landlord, Mr. Rios. He sounded like someone had just told him his car got stolen. "She what? You're telling me someone changed the locks? That's illegal." And I definitely didn't authorize it. I didn't either. My mom let her in, apparently. He went silent for a beat. "She's not on your lease." "I see." "And file for eviction immediately. But it's a process. Court date, sheriff's notice. Minimum 30 days unless she moves out willingly. 30 days. 30 days with her in my home, using my things, sleeping in my bed." My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might be sick. Mr. Rios said he'd meet me at the building to verify everything himself. When we arrived, we knocked. No response. Knocked again. Still nothing. Finally, he tried the master key. No luck. The locks had been completely swapped out. Mr. Rios muttered under his breath, furious. We ended up taping a notice to the door, an official warning stating that I, the legal tenant, had reported unauthorized occupants and that eviction proceedings were underway. I snapped a picture and sent it to both Emily and Mom. No reply. But that night, I saw the notice again, crumpled in a trash can, posted on Emily's private Facebook story. The caption read, "He thinks a little paper is gonna scare me? Try harder, baby bro." I stared at that screen until my eyes burned, and something shifted inside me. The anger stopped being hot. It cooled. Hardened. Days passed without a word. Mr. Rios filed the paperwork. I crashed on couches, went to work exhausted, spent my free time reading tenant laws and wishing I could fast forward my life. Then came the real punch in the gut. A notification from my bank. $120 at a home decor store I used to shop at. $200 at a furniture outlet, more at a grocery store, then a delivery service. all on my card. I dug deeper and realized the extra card I'd left in a drawer, the spare I never used, was still active. Emily had found it. I froze the card, disputed every charge, then dialed my mom. "She's using my debit card now," I said flatly. A pause. "I'm sure she's just getting what she needs. She wouldn't do that intentionally." She bought a mirror and a wine rack. Silence. "I'm rapport." "Ting this," I said. "You'd send your own sister to jail. She's not acting like a sister." That night, I filed the report, turned in bank statements, showed them the forged Facebook post, the lease, everything. Officer Marks wrote it all down and said it would be added to my case. Still not enough for an arrest, but definitely pointing toward fraud. Still, nothing changed. Emily stayed put. I was stuck waiting for the court date, losing sleep and weight and whatever sense of family loyalty I still had left. Then, 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. "Is this Brandon Harper?" "Yeah, this is Miss Kessler with Child Protective Services. We're contacting you regarding the guardianship application you filed for your nephew, Jamie Harper." My blood went cold. "What application?" "It states you're seeking guardianship due to unsafe living conditions in the current home. It includes your signature and ID, though the signature looks unusual." She emailed me the file. My name was misspelled. The signature wasn't mine. The photo ID was a cropped image of an old company badge I lost years ago. It was forged. Emily, or someone helping her, was trying to set me up. Whether to stall the eviction or paint me as unstable, I had no idea, but it crossed a line so far I couldn't even see where the line had been. I drove straight to my mom's. She opened the door wearing an apron, like she was expecting me for dinner. "Brandon, don't barge in." I held up my phone. She forged a guardianship request. She pretended to be me trying to take her kid. For a heartbeat, her face drained of color. Then it reset, stiff, defensive. "I'm sure there's an explanation." "There isn't. And if you don't help me fix this, you're going down with her." She opened her mouth, closed it again, lips pressed into a thin line. And for the first time, she didn't have an excuse. "Edie?" I waited. And when she finally spoke, her voice was sharper than I'd ever heard it. "You always resented her. Don't act like you didn't. Maybe she's not perfect, but at least she never walked out on us." That was the last thing she said before she closed the door right in my face. And that was the instant everything snapped. The loyalty I'd been holding on to, the guilt I'd been carrying, the belief that somewhere in there, my mother still saw me as her kid. She didn't. To her, I was optional, exchangeable, a placeholder compared to the daughter who needed attention more. That was the moment I realized I wasn't going to get my home back by being patient. I'd have to reclaim it myself, and not by yelling or breaking anything or losing control. I'd do it cleanly, legally, by the system they thought I was too naive to understand. By the time it was over, they'd regret touching a single item of mine, especially the lease, the credit card, and the name they tried to forge. But before any of that revenge could roll forward, something else blindsided me. Something that twisted the whole situation again, and not for the better. For the first time since adulthood, I stopped getting to work early. I didn't come in late, not a chance I'd hand that satisfaction to Emily or my mother, but the extra hour, the double shifts, the constant grind I used to live by, all of it evaporated, like someone had dumped cold water on a fire. My manager noticed. My coworkers noticed. They all watched, quietly, as the spark drained out of me. I'd been sleeping on Darren's couch for nearly 3 weeks. He never made me feel like a burden. He gave me room, kept the atmosphere light, and didn't force conversations I couldn't handle. But I caught the flicker of concern in his face when I forgot the trash again, when I left my laundry soaking too long, when I barely spoke through entire meals. I was coming apart in this slow, silent way that didn't make noise but left cracks everywhere. The eviction hearing was set for 2 weeks out, yet each day dragged in slow motion. Meanwhile, Emily was thriving in my apartment, like it was her personal retreat. Her Instagram went from quiet post-divorce gloom to full lifestyle blogger mode. Photos of her new cozy space, my apartment, Jamie eating cereal at my kitchen island, still my cereal, and then the post that almost made me throw my phone. Sometimes life gives you a fresh start. Grateful for the people who lifted me up when I had nothing. I was blocked, obviously, but people talk and screenshots circulate. My cousin sent it with a simple, "Saw this." I didn't respond. I couldn't. The weight of everything sank into me. The betrayal, the silence, the fact that my own mother hadn't checked in once. Not after the fake guardianship stunt, not after the charges on my card, not after the door slammed in my face. I started dreaming about keys, standing in front of a door, sometimes my place, sometimes the house I grew up in, and every key I tried bent, blurred, or melted. I'd wake up soaked in sweat on a couch that didn't belong to me. That was my lowest point. Not explosive, not dramatic, just a slow erosion of everything I'd built. And then one morning, something subtle shifted. Darren was at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee, scrolling through his tablet. He looked up. "You still got that drill?" I blinked. "The power drill?" "Yeah." "You lent it to me when I moved in. Still a beast." Yeah. Why?" He nodded at the tablet. "My landlord's letting me redo the laundry room shelves. Said I can customize them if I do the work myself. You want to help?" I didn't answer right away, but the way he asked, like nothing about me had changed, like I wasn't some fading ghost, did something small inside me. "Sure," I said. "Yeah, He knocked it out in an hour. Simple job, but it felt good. Good to hold tools again, to measure, cut, sand. My hands remembered what my mind had forgotten. The next weekend we fixed his closet. After that, his kitchen backsplash. Darren kept finding projects and I kept showing up. I didn't talk much, but the work pulled something in me back into place. One night, over takeout, he said, "You ever think about making this your full-time thing?" "What, handyman stuff?" "Yeah, repairs, installs, all of it. You're damn good, detail-focused. You don't half-ass jobs. Half the guys on Craigslist don't even own a level. You could charge double and people would still book you." I didn't give him an answer, but that night, I opened my laptop and started digging. Handyman licensing, registering a small business, website basics. I barely slept, but for once it wasn't because of stress. It was because something like hope was flickering again. Over the next few days I balanced work and research, started lists, tools I had, tools to buy, services I could offer, reasonable pricing, insurance, taxes. It was overwhelming, but I didn't care. It felt like building instead of surviving. A few days later, Darren brought me along for a job he'd taken from a coworker, mounting a TV and fixing a cabinet door. I ended up doing most of it. Darren hung back, joked around, handed me a beer. When the coworker tipped us both, he said, "You're legit, this is what you do?" I didn't lie, I said. "Not yet," he shot back. That night, I bought a domain, hyperpixit.com. Clean, simple, professional. I made a rough logo, set up an email, and built a one-page website, nothing fancy, just enough to look real. I joined a couple gig apps, put up a profile on Taskmatch, and waited. 2 days later, I got my first booking, a woman who needed her garage shelves reinforced. I showed up early with my tools. No. Tacked it out in an hour. She tipped me $40 and left a glowing review. I stared at that review like it was a trophy. Not for the cash, though it mattered, but because it proved I still had worth, even after everything, that I could still create something solid. Slowly, more jobs trickled in. I updated the site, ordered business cards. Harper Fix-It went from an idea to a lifeline. Through all of it, I stayed quiet. No social media, no messages to my mother, no reactions to Emily's posts. I didn't defend myself in the family group chat that had gone eerily silent since everything blew up. Let them think I'd fallen apart. Let them think I was hiding somewhere in defeat. I was working, I was planning, and I wasn't just taking my apartment back anymore. I was rebuilding my entire life. I was getting my life back. And then came the twist I never saw coming. It was a slow, quiet Saturday when a new submission popped into the Harper Fix-It contact form. The name at the top made my jaw lock. Rick. Yes, that Rick. Emily's ex-husband, the guy I assumed I'd never hear from again. The subject line was plain, job inquiry. Need help with garage conversion. For a whole minute, I just stared at it, reread it, blinked, reread it again. The message said, "Hey, not sure if this is the right Brandon, but if it is, I need some work done converting my garage into a home office. Found your site through a neighborhood group. Let me know if you're available. Also, sorry about everything. I heard what happened." That last line hit me like a punch. Heard what happened? How much did he know? Who told him? I didn't respond immediately. I let the message sit there in my inbox for a full day, hovering over it like it might explode. Then finally, I wrote back, "Hey Rick, yeah, it's me, let's talk." We scheduled a call. 5 minutes in, I realized he wasn't anything like the Karakatu Emily had painted. He sounded tired, older, calmer, more grounded. Before I could even bring up the job, he sighed and said, "I'm not here to pick sides. But you should know, Emily's version of everything? It's not exactly reality. No surprise there." Then he added something that made my skin crawl. "She told her new boyfriend that you threw her out of your apartment just to punish her. Said you were jealous she was a single mom and wanted to feel superior." I let out a sharp laugh that didn't even sound human. I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. Yeah, Rick said. Met him last month. He has no idea what he's walked into. That stuck with me. Emily wasn't just lying, she was rewriting entire histories, painting me as the villain in stories I wasn't even present for, and all while I was quietly putting my life back together piece by piece. That's when I understood something important. Waiting for the eviction hearing wasn't enough. I needed proof, evidence, leverage. So I got to work. I gathered screenshots of Emily's smug Instagram posts, pulled up the fraudulent charges on my card, organized emails, saved copies of the forged guardianship papers she tried to file under my name. Even Rick offered to provide a written statement detailing everything she bragged to him about. I stored it all, labeled folders, color-coded, duplicated backups, because this wasn't just eviction court anymore. This was preparation for war. But just when I thought I had every angle covered, just when I thought the spiraling had finally stopped, I got a call from Mr. Rios. His voice was rigid. "Brandon, you need to come to the apartment. Now." My stomach tightened. What happened? She's gone. But there's something here you should see. I left immediately. When I arrived, the front door was hanging open, the lock cracked clean through. Mr. Rios stood in the doorway. Looking like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I stepped past him, and everything inside me froze solid. The apartment was destroyed. Furniture flipped, walls scraped and gouged, cupboard doors dangling, broken glass glittering across the kitchen floor. My TV, gone. Microwave, gone. The hallway shelves I painstakingly installed, ripped out, leaving the screws half buried and bent in the drywall. She hadn't just left. She'd gutted the place, torn it apart, taken everything she could carry. Mr. Rios handed me something, a wrinkled piece of notebook paper found taped to the fridge. The handwriting was sloppy, rushed. "Thanks for the free ride. Good luck fixing this dump. Maybe next time don't be such a selfish little snake." A smeared smiley face grinned back at me. I didn't shout. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't collapse. I just stood there, staring at the empty rectangle of floor where my couch once sat, letting the final piece of the old world fall away. Because the truth was, I wasn't shattered anymore. What Emily didn't know, what none of them realized, was that I'd already documented every inch of that apartment long before she trashed it. I had timestamps, receipts, witness statements, financial proof, screenshots, messages, everything. She thought she'd landed the final blow. She thought the note on the fridge was the last word. But she hadn't met the new version of me, the one who understood how to rebuild from rubble, the one who didn't back down, the one who could smile through the storm because he'd already survived the worst of it. When Mr. Rios left to file insurance claims and finish the police report, I stayed behind, sat on the cold, filthy floor, ignoring the sticky substance smeared near my shoe, and began writing lists. Lists with no emotion, just precision. The kind you make when breaking is no longer an option. Step 1. Add my inventory. He replied, without hesitation. 2 days later, I had a notarized letter in my hand, him confirming every smug thing Emily had ever bragged about, how she boasted about changing the locks, about taking over the place, about letting me learn a lesson. He even included screenshots from the move, texts of her laughing about living rent-free and teaching Brandon how life works. That went straight into folder number 4. Next, I reached back out to CPS to escalate the forged guardianship report, ready to push harder this time, because the fall was done. Dr. And what came next? That was the rise. I told them I had evidence, actual, documented proof, that the file submitted wasn't just fake, it was part of an ongoing pattern of targeted harassment. I didn't go in angry, my voice was steady, respectful, controlled, and that's when they gave me a name, Detective Owens. He'd be handling the forgery investigation. I sent him everything in one email, every folder, every screenshot, every inconsistency in the forged paperwork. The next day, his reply came through, .br brief, direct.br received. This is being escalated for formal review. You will be contacted with updates. .br momentum. I could feel it shifting my way. Meanwhile, Mr. Rios brought in a contractor to evaluate the destruction. He asked me to come along to identify what was gone and what had been damaged. The contractor shook his head the moment he stepped inside. She even tore out the light switch plates. That's not theft, that's pure spite. We both laughed, but mine had nothing behind it. Still, I documented everything, BR photos, notes, measurements, itemized lists. I saved every quote the contractor sent Rios for repairs. I offered to patch up the place myself. Rios refused instantly. You've done more than enough. Focus on the legal side. Leave the apartment to me. The next step was the worst one. I had to talk. To my mother. Not for closure, I was far past that. But I needed to know what she was aware of, and what she had ignored. I showed up unannounced. She answered the door wearing a knitted shawl and holding a half-eaten apple. Her eyes widened slightly. "Brandon, I'm not here to argue," I said. "I just need straight answers." She stepped aside. The familiar scent inside, lavender and furniture polish, stabbed deeper than I expected. I sat on the couch. She hovered near the doorway, keeping distance. "I need to know," I said quietly. "Did you help her with those forged documents?" Her expression changed. Not surprise, hurt, not real hurt, performed hurt. "I didn't forge anything," she whispered. She showed me a paper and said it was part of her custody stuff. I didn't question it. I stared at her. "Did you read it?" "No." "Did you even notice my signature?" I don't remember." I believed she hadn't forged it. But belief wasn't forgiveness. "Mom, Emily is in serious trouble," I said. "This isn't going to end gently. She's your sister, Brandon. She's a criminal, Mom." She looked at the floor, and in that moment, I understood. She already knew everything. The fake charges, the manipulation, the vandalism, all of it. She just didn't want to admit it. I stood up. "I'm not letting her do this again. Not to me, not to anyone. She didn't follow me. She didn't speak." The silence told me exactly where her loyalty lay. So I cut the cord completely. I changed my number, blocked them both everywhere. Darren helped me set up call filters so they couldn't slip through even by accident. Then I went back to the one thing that was finally growing. My business, not the warehouse job. That part of my life was gone. I was Harper Fix-It, full-time now. I had enough clients, enough referrals, enough repeat work that I no longer needed the 9-to-5 grind. I filed for my business license, paid the fees, created service bundles, upgraded my tools. Stuff I used to dream about while digging through clearance bins. By the end of the month, a white work van with my logo, branded polos, 3 weeks of appointments booked out, a custom workbench with my name burned into the side, and a weekly income that beat my old monthly paycheck. But I didn't post it, didn't brag, because it wasn't for Emily. It was for me, still. A small part of me wished she could see it, see what I'd built out of the rubble she left behind. And then I got that chance. A new email appeared in my inbox from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, "From Jamie, with help from my friend's mom." My chest tightened. I opened it. "Hi, Uncle Brandon. I don't know if you're mad at me too. Mom said you hate us now, but I don't believe that. I miss you. Can I see you?" Attached was a drawing, crayons, a stick figure me holding a giant wrench, smiling next to a little kid with a tiny toolbox. It hit me hard, and reminded me why this fight mattered. Because Emily's damage didn't stop at adults. She used anyone, even Jamie. So I made one last plan: send everything to Detective Owens and follow up weekly, confirm the damage report with Mr. Rios, and sign the affidavit, finalize the civil suit with my attorney, notify CPS of Jamie's email without initiating contact, prepare a public statement in case Emily decided to twist the truth again. If she wanted lies, fine. I had truth, I had law, I had momentum. I was done being on the defensive. Now it was my turn. The final moment didn't come with shouting or drama. Emily lived off chaos. She fed on it, so I used the only strategy she couldn't weaponize. Silence. Deliberate, legal silence. The eviction case, the one that started it all, finally went to court. Emily arrived late. No lawyer, no remorse, cheap white blue. Same smirk she wore the day she changed my locks. She wouldn't look at me. Wouldn't look at the thick folder labeled in bold, evidence of theft and fraud. Emily Harper. Inside was everything. Receipts for the electronics she stole, before and after photos of the damage, screenshots of her bragging about squatting rent-free, Rick's notarized statement, police reports, bank fraud filings, the guardianship forgery, timeline logs, witness notes. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who looked like she'd seen every excuse in the book, barely needed 20 minutes. She ruled in my favor. Immediate eviction, retroactively effective. Mr. Rios was granted damages. I was awarded restitution for theft and unauthorized charges. Emily sat stiffly, her face cracking. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, she finally spoke. "He's exaggerating. This was just family helping family." The judge looked at her like she was tired of hearing variations of the same lie. "That's not what the evidence shows, Miss Harper. This is no longer a family matter. This is a legal matter." That was the first fracture. The real blow came a week later. Detective Owens called. The forged guardianship wasn't a minor offense, it had crossed into criminal territory. She'd filed a falsified legal document with a government agency. Combined with the CPS statements and the fake ID she used, the DA decided to prosecute. Charges: fraud, forgery, identity theft. A court date was scheduled. Emily was assigned a public defender. She couldn't afford private counsel anymore. She tried to twist it all back on me. "This is going to ruin my life, Brandon. Please think about Jamie." Jamie! I had been thinking about Jamie. I didn't respond directly to him, but I contacted CPS again. Quietly, carefully. Told them I wasn't seeking custody. Just wanted to make sure he was safe. I forwarded every piece of evidence about her instability. They thanked me. Weeks later, I heard through Rick. CPS had done a home visit. They discovered Emily had been leaving Jamie with random people for days, hopping between boyfriends' houses, avoiding follow-ups. She missed 2 scheduled check-ins. That was enough. Rick got temporary custody. Full custody was pending. Emily spiraled. She tried calling me again, crying, apologizing, rambling. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I just panicked. "Please, fix this with me." I never answered. Her number was already blocked. Darren summed it up perfectly. "You didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself. You just stopped being her target." By then, Harper Fix It was thriving. 3 workers, 1 full-time, 2 part-time, booked 3 months out, LLC formed, taxes squared, a logo on the van, workshops inviting me to speak. Life wasn't flawless. There were nights I'd lie awake remembering birthdays or holidays, feeling the ghost of a family that never really existed. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them. There's a difference. 6 months after the eviction, the last loose end finally snapped. A letter arrived. Emily had accepted a plea deal. No jail time, but a criminal record, fines, counseling, community service, probation. Not everything I wanted, but enough. When I walked back into the apartment, fresh paint, new flooring, the smell of sawdust and lemon oil, it didn't feel like the ruin she left behind. It felt like mine again. Quiet, clean, peaceful. I'd lost everything, rebuilt everything. And this time it was solid. Not even Emily, not even my mother, could take it away. Because the truth is, revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes the strongest revenge is rebuilding your life so completely that the people who broke you can only watch from the outside. She stole my home,